hit on Hassan.
We can't take him in Iran.
He's not in Iran. Who do we send?
All right, lads, well, we're in position.
Bravo team offloads here. Alpha team stays on board to land downrange. This is capture or kill.
Ya son más de 10 años metiéndole y todavía sueno como nuevo. Balvin no tiene relevo, me sobra el dinero, el respeto y los huevos. Yo, cada movimiento que hago es luego otro nivel lo elevo. Tú sonaste, me pagaste y no lleva ni la mitad.
We're shifting! Watch the containers!
How the hell did Iran get their hands on this?
It's either Russia or us.
Anywhere I roam.
We need an army.
I can get us an army.
Free to speak my mind anywhere. And I'll redefine anywhere.
Mexican Special Forces, 141, they are your brothers now.
Where I lay my head is home there.
Weapons hard, vaqueros. Pre-order now and get early access to the open beta.
Nothing hurts my mom. That she showed anyway. She'd always say, you do what you need to do to take care of yourself. But she thought that meant she had to do it on her own. We were trained to help others. But there's strength in finding help for yourself, too. We're in this together. Even the toughest of us might not know where to go to get a little support.
Encourage women who have served to learn more about the VA care and benefits they've earned. The VA Women Veterans Call Center connects veterans with personalized information on VA services that can make a difference. Call 1-855-VA-WOMEN or visit www.womenshealth.va.gov.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. I'm the host. My name is Travis. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on hubazoo.com. And I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asak of Asak Real Estate, Mark Holmes, Army National Guard veteran of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Semper Savage Salad Dressing, Bottom Gun Coffee, and Cason Shaving Company. So I'm just ecstatic. It's July, and this is number 301. I'm going to announce that in this show. And I'm excited to talk to Tony Owen of Operation Vet Now. And we kind of synced up over Alan Lacerda's podcast, I think for my service podcast. And Tony agreed to come on, and we're syncing up now. Tony, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's I follow you guys quite a bit, so I was really excited when I got the invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely, likewise. So, and I have a rarity here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking to an Air Force veteran, like this mythical breed of human that flies high in the sky that we grunts and Marines never really get to contact with.
Yeah.
But I'm here. So, and it's funny because I joined the Marine Corps out of Bossier City, Louisiana, where Barksdale is. So you think I would have joined the Air Force and been smart, but I didn't do that, Tony.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your Air Force career, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, cool thing here, I spent 2 years there with the B-52s at Barksdale Air Force Base. So I know I lived down in Bossier City for a while, and I know some good spots there. There's a picture behind me of Robert Parrish, which I'm born in Boston and stationed in Louisiana, so there was 2 connections there. But that's cool. I retired, back in 2006 from the Air Force. I did 22 years active duty.
Oh wow!
And I went in straight out of high school, and was a mechanic the majority of the time, refueling on the flight line, refueling trucks. So spent a lot of time doing that. Enjoyed it. Deployed a couple times. I'm a little older, so I was Desert Storm era. Spent about 9 or 10 months over there, moving around, and we were in several spots, but we're based out of Saudi Arabia. I stayed in there, retrained into like a maintenance control job, monitoring maintenance. And then I did a couple stints in recruiting, which was very late in my career. But what got me a little bit of background in what I did afterwards, I did some time as a recruiter in North Carolina at High Point. And then I went down to San Antonio, Texas, and worked at the recruiting headquarters a couple years. So I got to work in their marketing group and got into a lot of event management, things like that. And when I left the Air Force, that's what I did. But as far as my military background, you're talking about you're a Marine. When we deployed and when we went on exercises, I did more with the Army, but a lot with Marines as well. In fact, when I was down in Louisiana at Barksdale, we used to do this exercise where we would, we would convoy out to Army bases, 30 minutes apart, and we'd go out to Fort Stewart, Georgia. Hunter Armory Airfield's connected. So the whole exercise was we go out with the Army, spend 2 weeks in the field, joint type operations, down to Fort Bliss, Burns Flat, Oklahoma, all over the place. So I always enjoyed that. Probably the least I spent was with the Navy. I was stationed out in the Azores Islands. Yep. And a couple Navy guys out there with me, rescued swimmers, and a helicopter crew. But spent a lot of time in Europe as well, Germany, England, traveled all around. Really liked that part of it. Met my wife in England. She's an Air Force veteran.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she did 4 years. My daughter was born over there in RAF Lake and Heath Hospital. So we traveled as a family quite a bit. But I tell you, and even part of this organization we started, we love to, as we love to jack each other. I don't care what branch you're in, you know what I mean? But
right.
Those of us that know it, when we went out, in real time together, all jokes aside, and I always use the analogy, my brothers and sisters, family by blood. You beat on each other, you call each other names, but nobody messes with you. And that's the way I looked at all my Marine, Army, Navy, Coast Guard buddies. So,
well, I had some, when I went in, it was right after Desert Storm, and some of the sergeants and staff and COs were like, it's all fun and games until you see the A-10s fly over. And then, it was also fun and games when the B-52s would fly over them, and they knew somebody was going to, and we needed them, that they cleared the way.
Right.
And I just, for your personal opinion, I don't think even now, some of my fellow veterans appreciate what it takes to get a system like the B-1 bomber, the A-10 or the F-16 flight worthy, on time, to deliver, ordnance on target.
Right.
I mean, do you mind can you go into that just a little bit? Can you give me some perspective on that?
Oh, absolutely. My very first place I was stationed was RAF Bentwaters, and we had A-10s there. And
Okay.
there was actually a joint base. There was over 100 aircraft at that base. So I had a lot of experience with the A-10, and that's an excellent example. I'm sure the Army and the Marines, that was the best part of the Air Force. Close. We've got a couple board members that are really close to that. One of my buddies and a board member is Dean Unger, retired E9. He's a combat controller, so he was a guy on the ground guiding those bombs in.
Right.
So Dean would go out and deploy with, you name it, tier 1, and call the targets in. But what it takes to get it there it's pretty amazing. Our weapons crews for these aircraft, I always say, are like the unsung heroes. These guys are dragging around like enough ordnance to like blow entire cities off the map on a daily basis, loading one aircraft. These are precision. These aren't your everyday, somebody made a bomb, let's hang it on a wing, drop it somewhere. So give me an example. Even way back in Desert Storm, when we launched the first night, really America hadn't been to war since Vietnam. We had some stuff in Panama, a few little things like that. And I was with F-111s, and I went in the middle of the night. Well, I say the middle of the night, probably about midnight. I was actually in a crash recovery crane sitting on a flight line thinking that we were going to do another exercise. Then about 11 o'clock, somebody picked me up, took me to the headquarters hangar, and there's Colonel Lennon, our wing commander, big flags, taking pictures, like what's a photo session going on at midnight? Of course, if you know Air Force pilots, they're about the cockiest bastards you ever met, for a reason. But anyways, we got all these aircraft strapped up. Colonel Lennon was actually a Vietnam, veteran. He flew combat missions there, so he knew what he was getting into. But he was leading a bunch of young guys, so they took off, loaded to the gills. I forget how many, launched that night. Successfully hit Baghdad. Everything, just cut off the eyes and ears of Iraq and came back. Well, that was just the beginning. At that point, we started turning three turns a night every day. I'm talking like 45 days, we never stopped. So we'd launch maybe 35, 40 jets right when it got dark. Then we'd turn 30 more of them. Then we'd turn 20 more of them every night, and they were unloading. So these bomb guys are just, I don't know if you've ever heard of what a little vehicle called a jammer is. Yeah. So, they're out there running around that flight line, fuel trucks flowing. I mean, we're getting fuel out of basically waterbed mattress looking things. You've seen fuel bladders out in the field,
Right, fuel bladders. Yep.
Pumping them out of these little pumping units. And then you turn it over to the pilots themselves, and we used to call WIZOs, the weapons officer in there. So once they're in the air, the WIZO's on his laser guard, and they had a thing called pave tack, and basically that's your laser on target. That was the original war when the strike videos came out. They started sending them back, and that was our morale boosters. You know what I mean? We'd come back, and at that time it was VCRs.
Oh yeah. Right.
So, but we're watching. But yeah, you talk about that. You look at the A-10 guys, 30 millimeter Gatling gun on the front of that thing, pumping out 3,000 rounds a minute or whatever it is. This pilot sitting in a titanium tub, flying about as close to ground fire is like, and I'm sure you've seen it firsthand as a Marine. These guys come in, and it's no joke. They know they're a visible target to a ground like guy with an AK-47, whatever. So I think that's what's cool. That the part that a lot of people don't realize with the Air Force is we have more guys and girls on the ground than anybody would realize. These combat controllers. We have other guys called TACP, Tactical Air Control Party. Obviously we have the pararescues going in rescuing, but these are all parts of your deltas and your SEAL team. And, you just don't hear it. They're not real big career fields, but that's our connection from the air to the ground. So we leave that base. And so a lot of moving parts, I kind of jumped around there, but, and like I said, when a conflict kicks off, Afghanistan, Iraq, and they say, look, we need more bombs. We need more bombs. These pilots are flying hours and hours and hours. And like a B-1, a B-2, for an example, back in, can't remember the name of the conflict, the first one, the B-2 did, the stealth bomber, I think they flew 32 hours without landing. So they're taking, there's two guys in there, they're taking turns, taking naps, so what goes into dropping a couple bombs is really pretty amazing, the coordination and that. So.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, we do jack with the Air Force guys. I remember we had to go pick up some Marines from, I think it was Edwards Air Force Base in California. I can't remember. Yeah. So we pull up to the Air Force Base and said, hey, go get some chow. We walk into you guys' chow hall and we're like, what? It's like prime rib stations. I mean, I'm exaggerating here. So it was very funny, but we also know that, when that pilot goes down or that aircraft comes back riddled with bullets, your lives are just on the line like ours is. So you do this for 22 years and you get out. What was that like? I'm always interested in what the long-term guys had to go through.
Yeah. It's again, coming straight out of high school. I enlisted when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
To get out of town, you know what I mean? And so I really didn't know much else, other than high school. And, went from playing baseball and got in. So when I got out, moved back to my hometown, got a job in marketing. And I take it back. I tried junior ROTC instructor. My buddy was doing it. Two guys I knew, they said, hey, you're all set. I was like, all right, sounds good. That lasted about 3 months. I was like, this isn't for me. I mean, it is cool. It's a great job. Working with the kids is great, but I just, that school environment wasn't for me. So I talked to a couple of different buddies and I got some experience in marketing when that last tour I did with the Air Force at recruiting headquarters. So I decided to go that route. Over the years, use my GI Bill to get, finish off my education, but it kind of went to work. I kind of just disconnected myself from the military. I was like, look, I had enough of it. I loved it. Loved the people I was with is really what I loved about it the most. I reconnected with a lot of buddies recently over the past few years, and but anyways, I kind of buried myself in work. I traveled a lot. The job had a little bit of an international base to it, and just stayed my nose down. Changed job twice, and that was kind of my focus, was stay so busy that you can't pay attention to what's going on around you, and that really wasn't the best move. It was tough for my family because I was constantly on the move, always looking for somewhere to go again. It's all good. I'm great. I'm blessed with a good family. But I didn't transition well. I had a lot of trouble, to this day, I still don't understand why a lot of things aren't like the military. And that probably is a bad way to look at things.
Well, no. And the reason I asked that, for us, I served 4 years. And then I've talked to a lot of senior staff NCOs and officers who made a career of it, who are kind of relayed the same thing. Like, it was an abrupt stop. Like, I've had people tell me like, oh, there's not some little E2, E3 with my paper and coffee waiting for me when I get to the head shed in the morning. I'm there's no, I got to do my own travel, my own expenses. Whoa. It's a change. And then I have to think too, that you've made all these relationship connections over the years, and for all of us, that's gone.
Yeah.
And civilians do not operate the same way. Nothing against them, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Right.
Is this where Operation Vet? Now. Excuse me. Well, I'm like, I'm still thinking Jeff Owen for some reason. Yeah. So I'm not perfect, folks. What can I say? But is this where Operation Vet now, the seeds started germinating to create this? How did that get started?
Yeah, we and to make it easier, everybody calls us OVN. That's the easier one to remember. because like any organization, there's like Oscar Mike Radio, there's a meaning behind that name. But yeah, I was out about I guess 8 or 9 years, and I decided to get off the road and really try to slow down and focus on things. And a few years back with that transition, I think it was in 2015, but a good buddy of mine who's on our board, he told me about a guy that was in an old squadron that took his own life. Combat medic, still on active duty, had young kids. And it started, in my mind, I was like, wow, that's bad. And something made me start looking into like veteran suicide. I was kind of suffering, as we all do when we were on active duty. You don't think about it when you're there, but when you leave and all of a sudden this stuff starts to sink in your mind a little bit, and then it comes back and you start to wonder, that wasn't normal, you know what I mean? Or how I'm feeling about that is not normal. And it was kind of a combination of these things. And I think when I heard that, it kind of triggered me to start looking at it. And then I was totally oblivious to what was going on. Like I said, I just disconnected myself from the military. I was just that was my goal. I said, hey, let's do this civilian thing 1,000%. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everything's gone. There's nothing hanging on my wall, nothing, So I started seeing this 22 a day, and I'm like, wait a second, this is like 22 like veterans a day are committing suicide. I was like, this can't be right. And I'm a little bit analytical when it comes to certain things. And so I start digging and reading, and I'm like, man, this is bad. This is crazy. And you start to relate, and you look at the symptoms and things that people are dealing with, and you're like, wow, you could see yourself. You could see yourself. I don't want to. Obviously, I can't speak for you, but situations and thoughts in your mind, and all of a sudden you could spiral down that hole quick. And you can see where I could see where a lot of guys and girls got there. And so fast forward to a conversation with some other buddies I'd been stationed with. We started to talk. It was good for me. I reconnected with some, kind of found out where they were. A lot of our board is retired military.
Okay.
My sister helps out on our board. She's probably the only one. She is the only one that's not a veteran. But we said we got to do something about this. Well, and this is where I'll tell you a little bit about how OBN formed and why we do what we do. We went out, and I kind of put myself, okay, I'm a veteran, I'm looking for help. And I went out, and I was just totally mind boggled. It was like everywhere I turned, there was an organization that said, we're a veteran organization for this. We help veterans for this. I was like, wow. So we went out and like talked to veterans. We did some surveys. We went out different groups like wellness fairs we saw, and just kind of talked, collected some information. And we asked veterans, where would you go, if you needed help or whatever. And a lot of them didn't know. They said that, the VA has always had a good or bad, kind of feedback. You hear it, we hear it. The media grabs a hold of a bad story, but there's a lot of good that goes on in the VA. But we heard mostly that the worst thing they ever did was like Google, how do I get help for PTSD?
That's the worst thing?
Yeah. They said that they would go on and they were asked for money. They would submit a question and not get responded to, or get an auto response. Like we hear different things like, oh yeah, we got an auto response that will answer you in 48, 72 hours. Nothing came back. And I'm thinking to myself, if there's a veteran, a guy or girl or whatever, in that state of mind, and they're asking for help and nobody's responding, you want to talk about a feeling of hopelessness. Why would that be? And we found out at a lot of organizations, they're not just, a lot of nonprofits are volunteer based. They do the best they can, but they're not resourced to follow up. So, we kind of took it one step further, kind of looked at some organizations. The group of us in OVN looked at our backgrounds, and I had been in like sports marketing, event marketing, and all that since I got out. Same with Jeff Owen. Jeff works a lot with motorsports now, runs his own marketing company. Several other guys, sales, but a lot into lead generation, all this. And we said, you know what? We found a lot of good organizations out there doing a lot of good things for veterans. And a lot of them were small, and they didn't know how to connect with those veterans. If you look at the data on a lot of veterans that we lose to suicide, they're not, I think it's right now the numbers around 17 a day. Like 11 of that 17 are not connected to any kind of care. They're not registered with the VA or anything.
That's correct.
So we said, we got to close that gap. You know, we don't want to become another, hey, log in and get therapy today. Because, you know, I, like me, Jeff, we're like the last people you want giving you psychological advice, you know what I mean? So, but that's where we said, let's take our background in marketing, our network and connections with the sports world, live events, different things we know veterans do for fun, low threat environment, and get out there and create the connection with the organizations we know that are moving the needle. And therefore, that's kind of how our model. The first year we did a lot of research, a lot of questions, a lot of testing. And then really in 2019, we kicked it off with what we call the Veterans Village. And that's where we'll go into any town in the US. We do it mainly with sports because we see a lot of veterans go to sporting events, a lot of we really look hard for the post 9/11 veterans. They're the ones that don't go to the VFWs. They don't go to the American Legions. You know, they're and so we find a lot of them at, you know, extreme sporting events, things of that nature. But we'll go into a town, give you an example. We're in Minneapolis the very first weekend of the year. We went to a snowcross race up there, pro snowcross. And you know, we'll talk about like one of our ambassador athletes when we want to get to that. But we go out to the vet center there. We went out to a group called the VetMX Foundation, which does things, veterans that race motocross, but it's all over the US. Several organizations like that. We bring Mission 22, we bring them all in, and they set up their own booth in one area, and we call that the Veterans Village. And what we do, OVN, is we raise money, we cover the logistics cost of that. So we get them to space. We network with the series to get them to promote it, and we negotiate hard to get it for like, literally we get it like next to nothing compared to, you know, your big product sponsors and things like that. And then we connect with some of the pro athletes that are willing to help promote it as well. So when we get in there, we're right there when we meet veterans there. Veterans family members are a big thing, but that's basically an example of one we'll do. We use local and national, work a lot with the VA, the Veterans Experience Office. We can get a guy or girl registered for the VA right in the Veterans Village, connected to different organizations. And then we have a resource table, like a lot of organizations that can't come to all these events that we know, we'll bring them in. So go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No problem. So is Operation Vet Now, listening to this, when I hear the name now, it's about now. So that veteran comes to your village, that veteran, you know, reaches out to you all. Is that the focus where you can deliver, you know, aid, assistance, knowledge, education, counseling, maybe not you directly, but people you know direct, but now it has to be now.
Right.
Stupid question here, but just walk with me. Why is now so important? You've already kind of alluded to it, but let's say it again. Why is now so important to what you all do?
Well, you know, now actually means, you know, meeting veterans' needs through the endless opportunities that we can find, all focused on the veterans' wellness, mental wellness. Now is important because while 17 is better than 22 at date, 17 is a ridiculously high number. We can't wait on, you know, the more money we see put out there by political whatevers, and hey, here's $1 million, we got to stop this. Everybody, we want a sense of urgency with what we're doing. We can't build a program and say, hey, let's, you know, down the road. I mean, we tell everybody, do you realize, and I tell this to VA and the folks that I give feedback to there and all that. I said, while you develop your process, remember what happens every day. We lose 17 or more every day. So as you develop and you get your digital, you know, and I have to watch her because I get a little bit I get a little bit emotional about this, but every day is literally lives lost. So we're a very small organization, but we get out to several states. You know, we kind of hit the eastern United States. And through a new program, we've been able to reach more. But that's really why we say now. You know what I mean? We have to look for every opportunity we can to connect those veterans to the care that exists, because there is a lot of great things going on for veterans out there. I mean, I could just go on and on about the organization, what you're doing right now. This is what we need more of. You know, we need guys like you getting out there and elevating this message to say, hey, there's hope, guys and girls, you know.
Well, that's the basis of how this got created. But you bring me back to a point you made earlier, and that I try to articulate is, we'll just let the VA develop a program, and the program will help out. I'm like, the VA is well-intentioned. I'm not going to badmouth the VA, but
Right.
I want people to understand, right, that, you know, we got, you know, have the program, you know, set up, you know, research, executed, and then measured. And before they even do it wholesale, I mean, that could take 2 years.
Right.
And so before we go into the actual programs themselves, because, you know, they're cool, how did you compact that time frame of, okay, we're going to develop this event, this mission focus, this program, and then turn it around where the veteran gets that connection quicker? Because that seems to me to be the real difference between you and other organizations, is you all truly are focused on now.
Right. Well, you know, a little bit back about why and how the mission and the model we created. Like I said, we didn't create another one, a call center for us to, you know, start the process for therapy. We knew that wasn't our strength, but our strength is the ability to reach a target audience. We understand that from first of all, we're all veterans, so we kind of know that part of it, but we don't make any assumptions. But we said, how can we get to them the fastest, most personal, and most direct manner? And this is where we said in our model, when you talk about now, it's not, while social media and the computer has the reach and frequency that is amazing, it's really hard to make that connection when somebody's in need, to say, okay, what do I do now? Because the ad is meant to be broad, and again, this is what I tell the VA. I said, you're not going to, it's going to help, but you got to get out from behind the desk. You got to get out, and you got to do, when I see the word outreach on all these offices, that desk should be empty the majority of the time. You should be out there in your community. You should be in front of your veterans, your community influencers, creating that connection. You know, part of our charter with this Veterans Village in OVN is to educate our community. How can our community that says, thank you for your service, how can you really pay that off? And say, when there's a veteran in need, how do you connect them? So back to your question, we feel that getting out there at events, creating that connection is how we can accelerate that. We try to follow up with every organization. So if I give a guy a phone number or a girl a phone number, I'll contact that organization, say, hey, John's going to be calling you, okay? And I say, hey, John, ask for Sue when you dial in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Okay. So
and some veterans don't want that. You know, they're like, no, you know, I'll do it on my own, and that's fine. But if we see somebody like that, we try to personalize as much as we can handle. But a lot of the organizations that we bring in, they accelerate that. So back to what we say now. Well, if I bring my vets, give an example. So in 2018, we were just starting out. We had a motorcycle run, but we brought the Veterans Village in. We set all these organizations up, had the Vet Center. Just had a meeting with a buddy, Marine, Lee, the other day. And fast forward about a young lady, Army veteran, that took a job in outreach to help veterans. That connection started way back in 2018 when he met her at our event, and that individual was in need of help. So fast forward, that was successful. They got into some help needed. She decided to take on a new role to help other veterans, tell them how she did it, and now she actually got a full-time job in outreach. And that's where we circle back and say the connection was made. You know what I mean? And that veteran now has a good support group. And we try to kind of maneuver them in there, because an example is a lot of veterans you mentioned there, they don't want anything to do with the VA, and that's fine with us. But what we want to make sure there's a lot of other resources out there to get them help now. There's a group out there called Vets for Warriors, runs a 24/7 call center. All the calls are answered by veterans. An amazing organization. Any kind of help they need. It's just not a crisis line. And they work together with some Army guys that started Stop Soldier Suicide. So I just say those two right off the cuff, but we work with them. And there's a lot of ways to get help there. So again, now is what it's all about to me. How can we get out there now?
I guess the next question that comes to mind before we dive into the programs is, you're an outreach-based organization, action-oriented. How did COVID-19 and all the restrictions affect your ability to execute your mission?
But that was tough. Again, when we say, hey, everybody get out from behind your desk, get off the computer, that's where everybody was, during COVID, everybody working, whatever. We didn't do much. We did a couple test runs. A couple of the events were still going on. So we did some things online, some promotions where we could get veterans to register to get more information. And we did that. We followed up with that. We got a couple hundred in, I guess 2020 was the year that COVID was so bad, maybe, or 2019, I'm not sure which. But that was tough. I tell you, we had a board meeting and I told him, I said, I don't know I don't know what to do. Our model that we build is getting out. Obviously we don't want to, create, it was a real challenge. So, but we kind of struggled through it. We created some alternative ways. And we kept pushing a message out there. I didn't mention before, our messaging is for 2022 started is be there for our veterans. We try to keep this thing simple. You know what I mean? We live in a complicated world, and point blank, if we be there for our veterans, text them, DM them, call them, email them, just do it. In 10 seconds, I guarantee you could think of somebody right away that you serve with. I could call that dude and check on him, or that girl. You know what I mean?
Right.
We veterans, we need to do that, and people that know veterans. So COVID was tough. I won't kid anybody. We just felt like we were failing that year. We were not designed to be a digital,
Right.
We want to be there. We want to get out there. So, but we struggled through it, and God's blessed us, and we hung in there. People have supported us. And in 2022, late 21, we really kicked it back up again. And this year is, so far, we've just been, like I said, with the different parts of the program, I can touch on, we've really made some strong connections. So I'm glad it's over. So.
Well, I'm going through the website, going through your social media, and the first program that I want to talk about is the Fallen Heroes Project. And you go to the website, and I'll have the link in the Oscar Mike Radio show post, ladies and gentlemen. And there's, click on it now. And you have your, salute, and then you have a whole wall of people that you remember. How did that come to be?
Well, again, we talked about a lot about what OVN is and helping veterans get connected to care. Several years ago, I worked with some pro race teams, snowmobiles, different things, race cars, things like that. We decided at one event, I can't remember exactly which one it was, with a team called Sharing Speed Sports. Steve Sharing's owner's dad's an Air Force veteran. He's always supported. He's had some sponsorships from the military and things like that. But the guy is just a class act. They race in about 10 different states. And we said, hey, Steve, what if we let's honor somebody from the local area where this race was. And he's like, yeah, we'll put the name on the snowmobile. We'll put it on there, and we'd love to do that. So we did it, and the feedback was phenomenal. The series asked us to keep doing it. Well, other people saw it and said that. And so fast forward, within like 3 weeks, we had a board meeting, and we're talking about this thing. And everybody on our board has lost somebody. And they're like, you know what? I mean, it just turned into this thing where we finally put a name on it a year or so ago, and called it the Fallen Heroes Tribute Project. So basically, when OBN goes out and does an event, we always take part of that and we honor somebody who lost their life serving our country. Doesn't necessarily mean they died in combat, but we know our training is no joke. We lose guys and girls, out in the field training, a lot of things like that. And, I know Gold Star, I know many more Gold Star families now, but these families are just, I mean, they're our families, you know what I mean? And we cannot, and this is where we all had this conversation that we said to ourselves, we cannot let these guys and girls be forgotten, and these families need to know that there's organizations that aren't thrown in, and I love the stuff on social media, where they honor somebody that's lost. To see that face, see that name is so important. But we said every time we do it, again, get out from behind the desk, put some effort into this and honor this guy or this girl the right way. Let more people say their name, hear their story, see their face, keep that legacy alive. And it blew up from there. And it's the thing that we are the most honored, and it's the easiest to do because I just look every day for another opportunity to honor one of my brothers or sisters that we lost, serving this country. And that's where the Fallen Heroes tribute, we honored over 300, I think now. We just came off Saturday night with, I don't even know how to put it into words. We had about 100 members of Gold Star families with us at a NASCAR event. And, we had a great ceremony, honor guard, taps. We had a couple Blackhawks fly over and had those families down on the track. And every NASCAR, the race cars, which they've done for a long time, had a name of a fallen hero on there. We had some Marines there from the unit, that one of their teammates were on cars, family members, things of that nature. And we just lifted those names up and spent some time with those families. We ate hot dogs and hamburgers together. We walked on there. And we got comments that just, I mean, you can imagine, you served, for a family member to tell me, what, for a few minutes, I felt like he was sitting, my son was there with us again.
That's something I wanted to ask is a lot of Gold Star families, and I know some, unfortunately, a lot of them suffer alone and deal with that loss every day alone. Can you tell me what it was like having that many families together, understanding why they were there, but having that 5 minutes? What was that like for them? What was that like for you?
To me, it was an amazing experience to walk, and each of them want me to. They told us the story of their son or daughter, but not only what they did in the service, but they were a track star in high school, and just reliving that moment. And I'll tell you one 2-second mess up we had at the event, but that actually showed how important this was to the family. So we had a Marine that was identified to be on a race car. We'd have his name on there. And we got down on the track, and somehow there was a communication failure between the series and all that. And I can take the blame for it, but we got out there, all the cars were there, and the mother was there, the Marine, and she couldn't find the name of her son on a car. And we looked on the list, and it got switched somehow. And she was devastated. She said, "This cannot happen." She said, this cannot happen. And I got to thank the series, and there's a guy, Henry, worked for them, and some of the guys in NASCAR. They had it and went to this driver and said, "Hey, look, there was a mess up." He had his crew out there. They flipped this thing, had the name on there. And I got 2 Marines to talk to the mom. And those Marines had her smiling in a second because she was telling 2 Marines the story of her son. We took her down, and she saw the name on that car. She lit up. She hugged me. She said, I cannot thank you enough. This means you did not forget my son. And I said,
"Oh, man,
ma'am," I said, what do you say? I couldn't say nothing. I got no words. You know what I mean? So just a little thing like that. And I saw that, and to civilians that were there with me that didn't know anything about the military, were helping with the event. They looked at me and they're like, "Holy cow." Yeah, it's like, this is this lady's son. He was 22 years old, fighting in Afghanistan, and we lost him. And So that's just an example of what we see out there, and how hard we work to make sure that never happens. But if anything happens, we'll correct it. But people I need to know, I tell people every day, they have no idea what that means to them when people take the time to honor, recognize, and remember their sons and daughters.
I was going to do this later, but I'll do it now. What does that kind of interaction do for you? Because running a nonprofit is hard on a good day. When there's challenges, it's even harder. You have all these concerns: money, financial, fiduciary oversight, all that stuff, right?
Right.
But that moment in time, what was were you thinking this is worth it? Did all the hassles and frustrations go away in that moment?
Yeah, you know what? That's what you're exactly right. That's what keeps you going. You sit down and it's like, oh geez, you had to file this thing. Okay, you have to do this report. You have to have the board meeting. You have to have this. And it's like, when you walk away, you're like, that's why we do this. That's why we do this. You put all these administrative things in that aside. And like I said, you can't put it into words. And obviously we as veterans, we have a strong connection to this, because we know the faces that are tied to a lot of those names. I think of the guys that I served with, that I lost, that I've had on a few different things that we've honored. But that you're exactly right. Sometimes it's just like the COVID thing we talked about. It's like, geez, I don't think, that cut it loose, man. I could go do other things with my time, hang out, do whatever. But yeah, just walking off like the story hearing that the other day about the girl that was an Army vet and now she's here. Thinking to myself, we could have lost her along the way, but we didn't, because we did this thing. And we always say that if we just save one person, every second, every ounce that we put into this is worth it. So yeah, that mom's my best. She must have hugged me 12 times. You know what I mean? And it was just, and a lot of moms that I met, moms and dads out there, was really a great experience.
You get all the support from, elite level athletes in the NASCAR community, and the civilians that support NASCAR. But the one thing that I really, latched onto was going to the Operation Vet Now website and checking out the ambassador athletes and realizing a lot of these were veterans like me competing at their own high level. I got stoked about that. I've been waiting to talk to you about that, Tony, because I do weightlifting now at a high level for my age, but I mean, there's some savage badasses on this thing.
Yeah.
How did you get all these people, and what's it like for them? Because I mean, first one, I got the website here, so I don't get the names wrong. Lakeitha Key Barrett, pro women's football player, for example. You've got, jiu-jitsu competitors, motocross, boxers, national shooting people, a lot of motocross. I love motocross. I need to know the deets, Tony. How did this happen? Because nobody represents a veteran like a veteran.
Yeah.
Nothing against, people in the VA and civilians that advocate for us. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But, we talk on a different wavelength than somebody else. So to see these people operating at this level and then supporting you all, I'm like, I'm in. I got to know more. So how did this happen?
I tell you what, I tell you we want more of them. I tell you what, these all 11 to 12 of these, man, I love these guys and girls. I mean, to see these athletes with a passion to help their fellow veterans is amazing. And it goes back to a young lady. We typically, they're all veterans except one. And it's a daughter of a Marine, a Vietnam era Marine. And I met her dad several years ago. She raced pro snow bikes. And we got him checked. He actually visited the Veterans Village up there in Minneapolis. We got him some information on the VA, and we talked through that. He hadn't not been doing anything, an amazing guy. He says, I said, what are you doing at the race? Just, you like the sport or whatever? He goes, oh, no, my daughter's racing. Oh, really? I thought, whatever. Oh, yeah, she's a pro snow biker. I'm like, oh, yeah. So he brought her over there, introduced us. Long story short, Jackie wanted to help. She's like, look, this whole suicide prevention, honor. And she really, she really took to like the Fallen Heroes tribute. She wanted to be part of that. And we said, sure, we could, you're a pro athlete. You got a great platform. She does some podcasts on her own, in her sports side of it. So we did a couple test things, and she helped us promote it, the veteran suicide prevention and getting people to the village. She would come by and visit. And then for the last 2 seasons, we did a special tribute to women that had fell or were killed in combat. And she had a different lady on her snow bike every race, and would do that. So what happened was, and then about a year ago, I said, you've been such an ambassador for us. And I had talked to other athletes and so on. And it got me thinking, it'd be interesting to get more athletes involved or whatever. It's just kind of a thought here and there. So fast forward, I see this kid, Conor Matthews, out of Boston. Conor's MMA fighter, combat controller in the Air Force, did a tour in Afghanistan. So I reached out to him. I talked to him. My buddy Dean, he's a combat controller, but he didn't know him very well. Conor did, I think, 6 years and got out. That was his dream, be a pro MMA fighter. Well, we got on the phone and we started talking, and he's like, yeah, Conor's going to 90 miles an hour, man. The kid's just like all energy and all that stuff, and just an amazing athlete. And I don't know how many times he said to me in this conversation, yeah, Tony, anything I can do like to help veterans, they can call me, feel free to give my number. He didn't know what to do. He just wanted to help. And I said, dude, you know what? I said, you got a platform here. You got 10,000 followers on Instagram. At that point, he was close to that. I was like, if you want to do this, I said, let's work together. So he helps with some different things. So he started doing a free jiu-jitsu class on Sundays to like veterans, first responders. And that was kind of his way to give back. Well, we've been working with Conor for over a year, and we are so excited because August, I get the date right, I think it's August 2nd, he's at the Dana White out at the UFC Apex in Vegas. He's fighting. So he wins. He's got a contract. He wins this. He's in the UFC. This has been this kid's goal. And he's an animal. You know what I mean? And so you got to Conor the Controller Matthews. So Conor was like our real second athlete. Then he got me introduced into, I got to shout this out because tonight, Army Rangers, Sean, the unpredictable one, Lally, and he's fighting tonight.
Yeah, I'm seeing his picture right now. This dude's no joke.
And let me tell you something, and I know Sean won't mind. We've had this conversation online before. So these athletes, as we move along through these, almost all of them have suffered from the results of combat.
Okay.
They've had trouble transition. Let me tell you, Sean, I won't tell Sean's story because Sean tells it very well, but he battled addiction and everything when he got out of the Army. And this dude had fought hard. He went through the VA program, got help, and he, again, same thing. I'm ready to tell other veterans how we can get better, how we can do this together. Some of us, you got to get, whether it's getting clean and sober, where it's getting like mental health help, whatever it is. But Sean is now, he manages big boxing gym in Boston, and he decided to still fight some. And this guy, I'm telling you, he's about as intimidating as you can be. You know what I mean? And just love him, man. I mean, this guy's just got such a passion for life now. And just a cool dude. So yeah, he fights tonight. I think he's on the card as the pro fight. And then, but we've got, some motocross guys that are really up and coming. Kid Obi, well, it's his nickname, Obi Trice. He's still active duty Coast Guard. He's a medic in the Coast Guard. He is actually trying to qualify for the Nationals, which is they call the Loretta Lynn Nationals, a week from Saturday and Sunday in Pennsylvania. So that's a big deal for him. Another one, Obi actually sees a lot of people on active duty that suffer from a lot of the issues, the PTSD, traumatic brain injury, mental illness, depression. That's one thing we always tell people. There's a lot of us, suffering who still wear the uniform. The suicide rate in active duty and reserve guard military is it's bad. I mean, if people have been watching the news lately, the DOD says, hey, we failed at this. I mean, they admitted it this year. We love to get that active duty component. We got a couple Army veterans. They're married out in Utah, and they do some bike racing, but they're in this 3-gun shooting competition, which is really cool. And they got a big one coming up in Utah, high desert 3-gun.
Staff Sergeant Crystal Perry.
Yeah. Yep. And her husband, Craig, and good dude, artillery guy in the Army, I believe he was. So, but back to the program, and that's how it started. You know, actually, Crystal saw Jackie competing in pro snow bike and contacted us and said, hey, how do you get involved in this? We would like to do this. And so we got on a Zoom call just like this. We talked through it, and we asked every athlete, every veteran, they fill out a questionnaire for us, just a little bit about where you serve, what you do. But the bottom line is we ask, why do you want to be part of OVN? Why do you want to be an ambassador athlete? What does this mean to you? And that's where we really see it. You know, they lay it out there. I got on with Crystal and Craig, and again, the passion to help their fellow veterans. You know, that's what it's all about. Obi, Alex, got another kid, Alex, Navy veteran. He worked the F-18 fighters on a aircraft carrier. He's recovering from a bad hip injury. He had a bad wreck in one of the national qualifiers, so he's hanging in there. He's a good dude, been with us a while. But you can see them all. Don Prescott, old guy I was stationed with, flight engineer on H-53 helicopters, serve a special tactics unit. So, you know, he retires and decides to run Ironman competitions. So, yeah, guy's amazing. He ran one Becker, but he wanted to help. So he made a jersey with a big OVN logo, talks about it, ran in honor of some other flight engineers that were killed in combat. Key, you mentioned Key, you know, Lakeisha Key, Army veteran, I think about 6 years in the Army. She was supply. But this pro football thing, it got shut down during COVID, but the Pittsburgh Passion is big time. They're actually on their way to Tampa. I believe it's July 11th, and they made the playoffs. And there's actually a couple other lady veterans that play, and then those ladies are no joke. They're a hell of a football team.
I've watched some of it, and I'm like, they are no joke. Literally, like they take it seriously. But it was really exciting to see this. You know, these other veterans who, you know, maybe suffered some trauma, you know, in different levels of their life, military career or post-military career, you know, stepping up and saying, hey, I want to take this a little further and make sure I give back. And this kind of support just really, you know, underscores the need for what you all do. You know, as we wind down here, and, you know, this is one of those kind of talks, Tony, we could do for a couple hours. I'm just learning so much. But as we wind down here, you've kind of gone into what is next event-wise, but program-wise and mission-wise, you know, what's on the horizon for OVN, Operation Vet Now? Well,
we have, and I'll be happy to share. I should have sent you some of that stuff, you know, a little bit about our plan and all that, but the athletes are a big part of it. They're like I said, we're 100% volunteers. Nobody gets paid in OVN, not 1 cent. You know, so we want to keep it that way. You know, we're all about that, but we all have full-time jobs, but the athletes would like to take on more. I think the important part is that I don't want to take light of is our veterans that are athletes use their sport as their therapy. You know, Connor, Sean will tell you, jiu-jitsu is their go-to. You know, getting on that bike, those motocross guys call it throttle therapy, you know. So it's really important, and we really want to grow that program. We're looking for some sponsorships for them like everybody else. What we do is, as OVN, with my sports background, we try to connect them, but we don't get involved in the, you know, the contractual thing between them and the sponsor. So, but we are always looking for veterans to connect with and grow there. An example was Liz Carmouche. I don't know if you know Liz Carmouche is she just won her first title, was a Marine. And Liz went out and helped us with our logo on there. She did a really nice video about veteran suicide prevention. She has a hell of a story. You ever hear the Lioness program in the Marines?
I have not, no.
neither did I until I met her. And it's where they actually take female Marines and they go in to like those direct combat zones and they do like the pat downs on a female they may apprehend or whatever. And but really we want to grow that. And then our outreach side, our Veterans Village, is keep getting that into bigger and bigger events. It's all about affordability. A lot of the bigger events, we need more money to get space there. And we understand that they're running a business, but they do. We have a lot of organizations like the World Snowcross Series. They get us in cheap and they do so much over the top for us. And again, they did a pro bono video on veteran suicide with pro racers for us. It's on our YouTube channel. Again, it was, really nice. So we want to grow that. And we talked about it. That's our 3 programs: the Fallen Heroes Tribute, the OVN's Veteran Village Outreach, and then our Ambassador Athletes. Our goal is to really solidify those 3 throughout the year. Now that we're out of COVID, we got things going. So, we work on some funding for that. I'll tell you, and I'll be the first to admit, we're horrible fundraisers. So, we're focused on the mission. So,
yeah, and that was my last question for our conversation is how can somebody watching this right now, help you and support what you all are doing, who may not be an athlete or a veteran, but is your mission is resonating with them.
Yeah, when we have our website, we try to keep it up as much as we can, and our social media, what events are coming on. But it doesn't matter where you are in the United States. If you're interested in just coming out and helping, veteran or non-veteran, just go into www.opvetnow.org, or all of our social media stuff is Operation Vet Now. Instagram and Facebook are our biggest platforms. You can message us through. That's how we have a lot of people connect with us. Veterans that want to be athletes, just reach out to us and we'll review it. And it's all about capacity right now. We try to get as much as we can. But as we grow, we want to take on more because to us, it's so important to support these veterans' careers after the military. And that, this is their passion. Like you said, you competed post serving and you need that support to know other veterans are there for you. That's another way you can support. Get on and follow our athletes on social media, pump them up, watch their fights, their races. Those little comments on their post about how they did in this competition are huge, so those are the biggest ways. You can always donate through the website. There's a button on there to donate, or, contact us directly. And we appreciate everything like that. That's pretty much how we run. We don't work on any grants. It's just people that donate. Some companies will come out and do a fundraiser for us. And we couldn't be more appreciative of that. I mean, it really, really helps, keeps the wheels moving. And it's amazing when we start looking like, wow, it's running thin, somehow out of nowhere, somebody comes through and says, hey, we want to help. And, the results as best we can are on the website, on social media. We try to share that. But I'm telling you, one thing I want to tell everybody is if you see it on our website and you see it on our social media, it's not a digital ad or a digital promotion. It's something live that took place out there in front of our veterans with our Gold Star families and so on. So that's our IMO. You know what I mean? Getting out there and being in live fire. So
awesome. Well, I'm with Tony Owen, U.S. Air Force veteran, retired. He got out and with some people who are of like mind created Operation Vet Now, and the focus is on now. And Tony, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with me. These kind of missions really, motivate me and fuel my desire to see veterans, have, their best life, no matter where they are, what they're doing. And I wish you all the best on your future endeavors.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Thanks for what you're doing, man. This is good. Like I said, I listened to a lot of your shows. Good stuff.
Appreciate it. Well, as we say in Oscar Mike Radio, Tony, and to close this out, mission in flight. I'm going to say mission in flight now. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
I want to thank you for joining me and watching Oscar Mike Radio. Now go to OscarMikeRadio.com and click shop to check out all the cool merchandise from Authentically American. All proceeds go to veteran service organizations. We are mission in flight.